Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back here on League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you guys for some Week 4 power rankings in the LCS. Missed doing the recap this week, so we're diving fully into power rankings. Kind of do a recap and, rank the teams.
Yeah, get a little bit of both on this Tuesday, looking at what happened in the LCS. Was a lot going on, and it wasn't just about what was happening on the Rift. It was about who was playing on the Rift.
Yeah, the roster carousel continues in the LCS, and as we go 10-1, it starts with a new spot in at number 10, and a lot of those roster changes, 3 of them coming from FlyQuest, Licorice, Johnson, and Dreams, all out of the starting lineup this weekend, and they fall to 10 not only because they have a 7-game losing streak now, which is the most in the LCS. You could almost throw in a number 11 spot that's fielded by 2 different rosters for FlyQuest.
FlyQuest operating the 2 bottom slots of the LCS power rankings, and deservedly so, given what we saw from them, the performances leading up to this point, to be at this spot in the power rankings at the very bottom, and then what you were given this weekend. As far as the performances, it's in every single role for FlyQuest right now. It's not cutting it up to the par.
Head to head against the Golden Guardians, who were 10 last week, you have a 10-1 kill lead, 5K lead in gold, and that's got to be your fiesta of the week, was the FlyQuest GG game, and you probably could have predicted that before they even got the pick ban.
Yeah, let's just hope you excused yourself from having to watch that one and decided, you know what, I'll just look at the scoreboard afterwards.
Ahead of them, you have Dignitas, who, what a fall from grace. The theme is these bottom teams. It's a lot of roster movement, although it stayed the same for Dig this week, and it's more of the same. You see Neo and Afro pop off in the 2v2, and it doesn't matter. They just lose the game anyways.
You're losing in other parts of the map so severely, so significantly, and consistently since these changes, or since the changes come through, and pretty much anyone could have seen this is the way it was going to go if you made these type of changes. Now, there does need to be a discussion about Dardoch, his behavior, whatever, the situation is that they've not completely clarified in that regard.
As is the NA way.
As is NA way, and as is the way that things go with Dardoch at the center of it all. The performance for Dignitas at the end of the day, what you're seeing, the end result, the product on the Rift, completely worse with Dardoch out of the lineup, the way the changes have been going, Yasui, Saligo, everything else. This has completely turned what was the positive story of the spring, 5NA, what they had done, the potential, the growth they can still show, into total dumpster fire.
It's, I guess, maybe more what people were probably expecting with this Dig roster heading back to spring. Maybe that was actually the anomaly, and this is more what we're getting, because even Neo, when he's getting these advantages in laning phase, we're not seeing that same high level of play that we had from him in spring, which was a legit all-pro level.
And that is easier to take in and to deal with and to find, avenues to get power as well as that. When you have players, like Dardoch in the lineup, what you had going well for the team, that's not what it is for Dignitas as we head to this week of the summer split.
CLG and Immortals round out our bottom 5. They had the head-to-head this week, and CLG, it was a 0-3 week, as is tradition. They seem to go back and forth between full hype and full disappointment. But I will say this weekend's 0-3, I feel like almost all 3 games you could pinpoint 1 to 2 really bad plays that cost CLG the game, especially the Immortals one where Broxa gets caught out and then Wild Turtles just blast coning into 4 members.
Yeah, that very questionable at that point. As you said, with the way things go for CLG, it seems to be hot or cold. And we got quite a lot of cold to start the year. A bit of hot warming up towards the end of spring. And it didn't really keep going that temperature to start out summer, but it ramped up to there, leading to where we were last weekend with the performances of CLG, hoping to keep that momentum going. And as you said, running into some smaller errors, less errors being made, but overall, the significance of those errors are still the same in what they change in the game.
Luckily for them, the bottom three have been bad enough in the LCS for them to stay at number 7. But I think what we're seeing now is there's a pretty significant gap between Immortals and the other 4 squads.
Yeah, and I think it's tough because of North American standards and where you want to feel about this, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing. Because you can feel positive about it looking at previous years with this format of how many teams are going to be in our summer playoffs and realizing, okay, well, at the very least, if this is where the cutoff is, if we're saying Immortals is the difference between actually being interested in what is going on, that's more teams than we've had in the past. But still, the problem is at the end of the day, that's not everybody getting into the playoffs when you have that many teams and you have the quality of teams that you do in the LCS.
Yeah, and I mean, Immortals are a team that I think have pretty much overperformed to most people's expectations for like a full year now. We were expecting them to be right at the bottom with this roster, and they have absolutely not been the case. They've been, as I just mentioned, much better than these bottom 4 squads. So shout out to them for showing up, proving the haters wrong. Into the top 5 now, which has been the same, I feel like, since week 1 almost. The same 5 teams in a different order, and this week is no different. We got a new order. It was a 2-1 weekend for Cloud9, but they're still moving down. I still feel like they're in a slump. They only beat the Golden Guardians because of a terrible Baron throw that they opted to start in a 4v5, did the Guardians, and then the other win coming against CLG. I don't feel confident with Cloud9 on the Rift anymore.
You need to see dominant levels of performance, even accepting a little bit less than that from Cloud9 to want to see them get back to where they should be, what your expectations are for a team like this with the pedigree that they have, what they've accomplished already. It all adds up to being that they need to do more. And as you said, doing the bare minimum and getting by on a couple of mistakes, a couple of things thrown away, that's not going to cut it for a Cloud9 roster, even with Sven stepping back in and seeing some degree of a positive bounce back, from him in that regard. Not enough for Cloud9, and certainly not enough to warrant any type of further movement in the list.
And the problem is, as much as we meme on it, the top 3 to 4 in the LCS are looking better. They're looking much more competitive. Evil Geniuses, the ultimate coin flip, as we always talk about. The game they had against TSM, Contract steps in for that one game, has a fantastic showing, and it's not enough to knock TSM out of that second spot, but that game's enough to bump EG ahead of Cloud9.
And I think a lot of people, ourselves included, after week 1 with Evil Geniuses and how badly things went, and certainly with just the record, examining some of the more of the games and how close they were, some of the little things to clean up and tune up, people had doubts given the characters that we have seen from these players before, and the good and of course the bad that comes with all of them.
Bit of ugly.
Absolutely. And to see some of that at the beginning of summer, I think a lot of ourselves said, okay, I'm not buying in on EG continuing to improve to get to that level to where they are at, which is in this conversation for the elite of the elite in the LCS.
And yeah, I mean, even with contracts coming in, it kind of, you saw Sven Skjern in the next game against Dignitas, he's a guy that I could see needing a little bit of extra boost, some competition to kind of say, okay, I'll step it up. And I mean, not much against Dignitas to get excited about. But yeah, Evil Geniuses, you talk about that 0-3 week. We also talked about that could have been 3 out. Like, it would have been out of the question. So think of what their record could be at that point. They have the same record as Cloud9 in the summer, split so far at 6-6, even with that 0-3 week. So looking pretty good for EG so far. Still behind Team Liquid, who won that head-to-head against them as well. And it should be Alphari back next week. Should be.
Now, yeah, and it's time to reevaluate Team Liquid all over again when Alphari slots back into the lineup. What's it going to be? What's going to be the difference with Alphari back in the lineup? Just what we have seen over the past couple of days, but especially moving forward, given the change in the coaching staff, given who is there at the helm, no more Jat, these type of things. That's what you want to see, some type of change, positive, obviously, with Alphari stepping into the lineup.
Yeah, and they're still, a top 3 team with Armeo and Jenkins in the top side of the map. That obviously speaks a lot to Core JJ. Jensen has been playing better of late as well, but they're still a spot behind TSM. That was another head-to-head marquee matchup this weekend that TSM just kind of turned around a couple of fights. It was a slow-paced game, and then TSM eventually running away with it, and they continue to look good.
I think that's got to be the understanding, at the very least, good with TSM and what they're providing from us. It's hard to get too much confidence, too much excitement, given the history of TSM.
They've done enough that they can stomach a loss like they had to EG and not plummet down the standings, of course.
Right, and again, as I was getting to with, the idea with TSM and the organization and Reggie and TSM FTX, all this stuff that goes on around it. For the most people, I think in the scene, it leads you to wanting to, be negative, to doubt, to put, they need to do more. These the 5 players that are slotting into that starting lineup for TSM, the work that they are doing, what they have done, does deserve that recognition, does deserve the praise when they're getting it right.
And it's kind of momentum that's carried over from the end of summer or the end of spring into summer. They're continuing to look like a legit threat and one of the favorites to be a Worlds representative for the LCS. But they're still not number one because it's another 3-0 for 100 Thieves. Abadage, listen, Perks, your reign as best mid in NA, it was short-lived because Faker Dage's here. And he's already taken that over it, so.
Absolutely. They might want to, Schalke might check who they sold away, because they sold Abadage. They thought they might have been keeping Faker Dage, but no. Faker Dage has made his appearance in the LCS. Reapered along with the rest of 100 Thieves. It's all good, my man. The way that they are, the pauses that you can go out, you can talk about each individual role for 100 Thieves, and all you have to say from this past weekend are good things, what they did well, what was the exciting moments from them. And that's what it has been for the 2 weekends in a row, for more or less, for 100 Thieves. An absolutely blistering start to the summer split.
So far, I'm pretty confident calling closer, Abadage, FBI, best in their role for summer split. I don't think it's hard to argue against, at the very least, those 3, and you could make arguments for Someday and Huhi as well.
You can make arguments for them to be there, and not the worst. You got to slot them into number 2 or number 3 type of territory. That's what we're getting from 100 Thieves. Yes, we've seen this various times before in North America, a squad reaching some level of dominance to totally sweep the board in the all-pro situation. The way the 100 Thieves are doing it, the level that they're doing it at, it just feels different.
Yeah, and that's why they're deserving. They're staying put at that number 1 spot on the LCS rankings. But that's it today for the NA rankings. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging. Catch you on that flippity flip.